Social stratification is a cultural universal. Again, a cultural universal is something that exists in virtually all cultures around the world. Social stratification, meaning some people have more power, wealth, and prestige than others, is definitely a cultural universal. In some cases, it is not very extreme, but in other cases, it's extraordinarily extreme. In the case of the United States, Jeff Bezos makes more money and has more money than I, for example, would be able to earn in 1,000 lifetimes or more. That is, he is rich beyond any imagination. I have a hard time grasping how much wealth and power Jeff Bezos has. For example, he just launched himself and several other people into space with a rocket ship that his company designed and built. So that is wealth beyond any imagination. So the United States is an example of a culture where there are extremes of wealth and poverty. Other nations around the world have less extreme differences between the poorest people and the richest people. In the case of Bangladesh and Myanmar, the gap between the very, very richest people and the very, very poorest people is pretty far. There are people who barely have enough to survive on each day. And at the very high levels of society, there are people that live very opulent lifestyles and have as much food and as many luxuries as they can possibly want. If we go back in time, we can see that 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, the gap between the very richest and the very poorest was extreme, but not nearly as extreme as it is today. In the United States, we have a saying that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And that's indeed true, both within the United States and globally. The extremes of wealth accumulated on the planet are beyond imagination, like I said before, and there are many people still in poverty around the world. And so studying social stratification means trying to figure out why there are rich and poor and why the gaps between the richest and the poorest are so extreme and growing in many cases. So structured social inequality.